You know that sound? It is the Voice of C38 podcast, the podcast for Rapids fans by Rapids supporters. I am your host, Brendan Wyatt. I got a full studio for the most part.
Kinda.
We're missing one dude, which
It keeps getting less full.
Yeah, we'll have some thoughts from Brian here in a second. Once I start into the starting 11, you cracking a beer? That's a nice little welcome.
Men in blazers, for the love of God, teach Austin how to pour beer into a microphone. He tries and he tries, and it doesn't work.
Eventually, I'll get it. I've learned 1,000 ways not to do it.
You might be tanking it on purpose just so you can try again.
Quick, swig it and pour another. So that's right. If you haven't quite picked up, Matt's joining us.
Hello.
Tammy's here.
Hello.
And, of course, the Drunken Monk via Skype.
Greetings.
We'll have a little bit from Brian. Actually, I'll go ahead and start that starting 11 with Brian, giving some thoughts as he's on the road doing, that thing
Brian
that,
stuff.
Pays the bills.
Aloha, friends, Rapids fans. I am coming to you semi-live from the banks of the Little Bighorn River, not far from the battlefield, Little Bighorn, where General Custer met his famous demise. So I thought only fitting to be here while I'm chatting with you about last week's debacle in New York and the Shambolic, just like saying that word, 5-1 defeat out to NYCFC. Quite honestly, let's hope that baby's in the rearview mirror. Seems like every team just lays a complete egg at one point during the year and has just a stinker. And hopefully that was it. We don't see it anymore this season because, man, that was ugly. I just thought, defensively, the guys in back they just looked out of sync. Things look kind of chaotic at times, and you really don't see that with that group this year. Offensively, it was a struggle to get much going creatively. Too often, I think we saw the ball get forced into Doyle, and then all of a sudden he has 4 defenders around him because they know he has nobody else to go through or go to. There just wasn't enough help or assistance or a threat from anybody else coming forward, I think, to give him much to play through. And you could see on TV, on the broadcast, he was just frustrated. Gosh, who's to blame him? And the other thing, too, I agree, for those of you who watched on TV, I agreed with Cello in that would have been a match I really expected to see more of Papa. Tight spaces, crappy field where getting creative in small spaces with the ball or in traffic was going to be key. And I would have liked to see maybe a little more of him. But, that's the way it goes. Again, hopefully that's in the rearview mirror.
Another thing about that small spaces, crappy field is I was watching, the mowing pattern is still in the outfield of a fucking baseball field. That's got to be kind of confusing if you're running around on it, right? Because the mowing pattern is an arc on one side and it's straight on the other side. It just seems like it would make you dizzy or confused.
That game was hard to watch in a whole lot of ways, and that didn't help. It kind of almost, in some ways, kind of looked like they were playing on an indoor arena, but not indoors. It just was too small, and when they were talking about the field dimensions, you're looking at almost 20 yards. You don't have in width that you're used to having. And that was kind of something I saw in training today. They were working on a lot of really compacted, small-sided passing, playing in a very small, narrow area. And there were passing lanes that they had to pass through in order to score points and whatnot. It was definitely a reflection on what they failed on when it came to playing in New York. And I think learning to play in small places, not just in general, but you can have that on any pitch. It just doesn't help when you don't have that space to play to. So I think it was something that the Rapids really realized they needed to learn how to execute a little bit better when it came to playing in a tight, compact space, because whether your field is 80 yards, 100 yards, or 67 yards wide, you're going to end up with only 3 to 5 players in a very small area, and you have to get the ball moving.
Is it only 67 yards wide?
Yeah.
See, that seems like it's illegal.
That's what
Does
we were
FIFA
talking
know about this? Are they building their own soccer-specific stadium?
So they obviously, in order to get a franchise in MLS, you have to prove that you're going to get a soccer-style stadium within a couple years. They're on their last year. I've seen more updates from OCSC's stadium than I have from New York's
and Miami's.
And clearly
Minneapolis or Minnesota
or
stadium
Atlanta's spot is going to be a whole different. I mean, they're on a football pitch just the same, but they were able to convince Garber and MLS that they can make it into and they have a whole new stadium that they're going to use for football and soccer.
That's not soccer specific.
But when you're playing at Yankee Stadium, you're playing sandlot ball. And unfortunately, you add that with Toledo and just not having a good day.
Yeah.
It was the Rapids' turn for a bad game.
Well, New York even doesn't have a good home record, and maybe that's because you can't just pull the ripcord and boot it away.
New York has the best away record of any team in the league. Right now. Like that shows that this league is a league that you win at home. The only reason that NYCFC isn't winning at home is because they're playing on a shitty pitch.
Yeah,
so shitty pitch, and they're offensive based, and it really, which is why it's so surprising that we did so terrible there, leads to defensive style play. And when you're an offensive team, the space is what helps you. When you're a defensive team, it should help you, except for when you have an idiot who gets 2 yellow cards in the first half, and that's just terrible.
That second yellow card might have been a little soft.
Yeah, but you don't put yourself in that situation when you already have a goddamn yellow.
True.
So that is entirely his fault.
Yeah, I'm not defending Azira,
but he definitely put himself in a situation that he didn't need to be. He wasn't the last defender. There was people back that could have stalled until he got back, but instead he put himself in a situation where the guy could basically dive and get him a yellow card. That is a stupid decision.
So
really, really poor decision.
So the way Azira has played all season, he's obviously been a benchmark player as far as what we're looking for in the defense, and he's been very, very solid. He made some dumb decisions, and that was kind of almost what the entire team had done. So that entire trip to New York was just not good for the Rapids. It wasn't just Azira. And me personally, knowing the situation and the atmosphere and just being aware of all of that, if I were the coach, I would have subbed out Azira during that rain delay. I would have took that as a blessing, and I would have sat there and told Azira, sorry, man, but we got Toledo right now. You could just barely tap a guy, and we might lose you for the game. I knew that then.
That's true. You tweeted that or Facebooked that.
And it was just...
And he did it shortly after.
I mean, minutes as soon as they came back in. That's what happened. Like I almost feel like I jinxed it by saying it, but I had a gut feeling, and that's how I go when it comes to the way I look at soccer and these games.
And you're 50% right most of the time.
Yeah, it's true. The last time
60% of the time,
I forgot what game it was, but the last time we were watching, we got 2 yellows, and you called it.
That's just I have a theory when it comes to guys who've got yellows. I sub them out as soon as I can. If they get an early yellow in the first half, I'm sorry, you just played 45 minutes. I'm not going to play you in the next 45. I can't afford to go a guy down.
Well,
and in Azira's case, we had a
when you get an early yellow, it's usually for something stupid and aggressive, which means you're probably going to continue to play stupid and aggressive. When you get a later yellow, it's usually due to foul accumulation or stuff like that.
Or a technical yellow where you need to do something defensively, whatever. But
early yellows are always tend to be stupid yellows. And if that's already in your mindset, you got the yellow, pull him.
Well, it's definitely my mindset. And I go one more step further when Toledo's reffing. Because you just know he's going to look at the next chance to throw another card. And this was something I brought up in the pregame or precast prep, and we don't have an intern to do the stats for me, but everybody has talked about in MLS almost every team has a bad game, like a really bad game, like a 5-1 game or a 7-1 game or something along those lines. And I wonder how many of those games has Toledo reffed. Just putting it out there.
That's
for anyone
interesting.
who wants to
I have
crunch some
cataloged
numbers.
all those games.
Did you really?
Yeah, because it struck me as not an uncommon thing. And building on what Brian said, yeah, everybody goes out and lays an egg once in a while, and it's true. DC over Vancouver 4-0. LA over RSL 5-2. New York Red Bulls over Dallas 4-0. We got a 7-0 Red Bull over NYS CFC. Dallas beat Orlando 4-0. Seattle over Dallas 5-0. We got a Montreal over Philly 5-1. The other Red Bull game over New York City FC. And we're just the 10th if you want to count Argentina beating USA 4-0. And if you go into the Open Cup, there's another 4, 5, 6 there. This is, I think, indicative of a transformative time. I mean, we have very, very unmatched teams hitting the field because so many teams are building up at such different rates. Eventually, I think it's going to level off. But right now,
you're also
it happens to
looking
everyone.
I think with the MLS, which is what makes it almost entertaining, and I've heard multiple people over in Europe really like watching the MLS because of it, is your players tend to be less perfect. You're looking at teams that it's a lot more passionate and emotion based, and it's not all about almost perfect mechanics all the time.
Right.
So when you go down, it tends to get in their heads a little bit more than you see over there. And I think that leads to that kind of stuff. Like this game, we were still in it, and then you get that red card, which hurts you. And then you get that second goal, and then you could tell that the team just got disheartened, especially with a team that's not offensive at all. And then we started trying to push forward because you're losing already, so why not? And that's going to allow a lot of goals, especially against a team that, even without Villa, has a lot of scoring potential.
Ask Frank Lampard.
Yeah, one last thing because the 11 is come and gone. But
I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time.
I know.
about
Right
that.
before we
Yeah.
started, he said, I want to spend a whole 11 minutes on New York City game. But, I mean, it's easy to get down on this loss. But if you're watching the field, man, you're missing half of the show because the fans off to the edges of the frame, that's who I was watching. And they tell a whole nother tale. They tell the tale of NYCF Sighayo. And this is a famously, no flags, you'll see no banners, you'll see no cannons, fireworks, smoke, or chainsaws. You don't know where the third rail sits. They're not obvious. There's no tifos, capos. There's no drums. You don't hear chants. NYCFC soccer is soccer in name only. They play in the Yankees' house by the Yankees' rules. No interfering with the enjoyment of others. This is from their website. No irresponsible drinking, like there's any other kind, drunken monk. No eating, drinking, or loud talking, I'm sure is coming next. And
Didn't know we were watching fucking golf at this point.
and yeah, it's a baseball crowd. NYCFC doesn't enjoy the culture that we enjoy. We are soccer. We're the 12th man. They're just spectators, and that's why we're always going to win. In the long run, we the fans have won because we're not NYCFC.
Speaking of the fan base, I am highly disappointed.
Oh,
I'm
bring
sorry.
it on.
I saw my Facebook feed, and for a moment, I thought I was a Seattle fan because of the way people were talking. The bandwagoners just were jumping ship left and right. The world was over. Fire Pablo. This season's going in the tank. Oh my God.
that
Never
hurts.
win a
That hurts.
championship.
I avoided social media, but I saw some positive things, some class. Tell me what you saw.
I just saw, and there was positives. It's just I saw a lot of people that were jumping ship already. I was like, you lost one game. We went 15 games undefeated.
I tell you, and it's only one of
15 games,
9
man.
blowouts, one of 9 decimations of the year. There have been a lot of them, and we're just number 9. There's going to be a 10, 11, and 12. So
It's going to happen.
keep the
You're going
faith.
to lose games, and to be honest, I'm happy about it. I'm happy we got beat the shit out of when we lost. Because I'm hoping that that's going to build character for this team going into the playoffs. And it happening now versus another few games from now is a big deal because it allows us to regain the momentum going into playoffs.
But that's the
if
thing.
you waited until, late August for this, you're going to have a hard time trying to make a comeback out of that.
Well, I trust the team. They're pros. They've been doing this a long time. I trust them to stay optimistic and classy and work hard and learn. I want to see the fans stay the course. I want to see them keep selling out the dick, and I want to see them staying positive.
So they predicted sellouts until the 20th, the Orlando game. And part of that has to do with school, and obviously we bring a lot of kids out to the park. But I just got derailed, and I totally had a thought based on all of that, the fan thing. But
it'll come to you.
It's just, it was one game, and there it is. It's no secret that the Rapids fall apart in late July, beginning August. Like, this is something that we have done consecutively for years. And it's not just with Pablo. We did that with Oscar, too. So that's not that surprising. And in a way, I kind of saw it coming because we struggled to tie games for the last 3 to 4 games. We didn't win. We struggled to tie. We were looking at a loss way earlier than we were this game. It just needed to happen. Maybe it'll shake some things up. Maybe it'll shake up some egos and some attitudes in the locker room. Maybe it'll change the formation. I don't know.
Yeah, good luck with that.
I have some thoughts on that. And part of it is Pablo, and they clearly have been doing well based on what he's doing. And it's hard to change things when they're working. When the bulk of the organization starts talking about a formation change, it makes me wonder if it's been discussed. That's as much as I can say about it. And when you have the absence of Michael Azera in this next game, that kind of almost leaves a little bit of an excuse to change your formation. But
you're
it doesn't mean they will.
The thing is that everybody talks about changing formation, and you don't see a lot of coaches change formation.
No, not unless you're really forced your hand. Yeah,
it just doesn't happen because you spend an entire off season and season training in this formation, building your team around a specific formation. Like it's very a different mentality. Like I don't think people who haven't played soccer on a very competitive level understand the change in mindset. This isn't NFL football, all right? The play-by-play change isn't something you see. You build a team based around that. You take the losses, learn from those, and continue to try and work with your strategy. Our strategy is defense. Is that only Pablo? Yeah, he's a defensive-minded coach, but I don't care what anybody says. Defenses win championships. If they can't score...
No, then it goes to shootouts in championships, and that's more terrifying than what we're doing now.
So
at some point, you do need an offense, though.
Well, yeah, you have to get an offense, but as long as they're not scoring, you can go into OT and then end up with, a shootout, and we have Howard in our goal. So you're taking that chance doing that.
Shootout was terrifying. With Edwin van der Sar, it was terrifying with Petr Cech. It's terrifying no matter who's in the goal.
Yeah.
Well, it's terrifying, but if you have the better goalkeeper...
And it's the absolute worst way to lose a championship.
And that's just assuming you get to that title game.
True. But you're still... I don't know. I've seen it across multiple sports where defense is what usually wins out over an offense. It's just... the way it is.
NYCFC.
Well,
it didn't, but where are they at in the table compared to us?
Number 1.
Yeah, it kind of depends. That's not
Points-wise,
necessarily the best defensive argument to that.
We're at 1.83 points per game, even with that loss. They're not there. You're just. It's not. I'm sorry. It's just. Really offensive teams, unless you are just crushing people, and even when you are, remember Broncos Seattle Super Bowl, you're still, when you run into a team that figures out how to stop you, and that's more likely than breaking through a defense multiple times. The reason we got crushed is because we went a man down. And it wasn't just a man, it's a zero. and he is a huge part of our defense. So if they had lost Lampard in the first half, do you think they would have beat us? Probably not.
Well, that in a way, that's kind of saying that took 3 goals away from them, but that still puts it at 2-1 with a late cracker from Gashi. But you kind of backed yourself into a corner there because they still. The thing is when it comes to teams and researching and figuring things out, the one thing that any team can do at this point is look at the Rapids and say, and Brian nailed it at the beginning, you put 4 guys on Doyle as soon as he gets the ball, he doesn't have an outlet. And is despite what certain people say about Cello and what he has to say, you can tell, like he made the comment, the Rapids don't have someone to look for as soon as they get the ball. And
because
they certainly can't boot it away on this field that size.
And yeah, that may be a lack of Marco Papa, because I noticed again today at training, every time Tim Howard got the ball, his first target was Papa. Like he immediately looked for Papa. And
we don't have an offensive midfielder. Right now, we're throwing in Powers, who, first of all, in my opinion, never really was an offensive midfielder. Powers is a defensive midfielder, in my opinion.
That's how he won Rookie of the Year.
He's just not an offensive midfielder. He doesn't have a nose for goal. He doesn't push the envelope going forward. He doesn't get into the 18 until late. He's not great at putting the ball at his feet and distributing. Jones does that. Papa does that. And so I don't know why Pablo is choosing to leave Powers in that game, especially when you have Cronin and Azira back. You've already got 2 very solid defensive mids. Put someone in that's going to actually go towards goal and make us threatening.
Unless you're trying to boost his price tag so you can sell him.
Yeah,
to go into the baseball realm. I mean, that's why a pitcher will come in the 9th inning, because they want to boost their
stats.
There have been rumors about selling Powers all year.
And last year. I mean, as soon as he got his Italian passport, there have been rumors about him going since then. So,
and according to the Rapids Rabbis, our article, most recent article, the Rapids very well may be broke. They may need that money to bring in somebody they want.
And given the money they spent at the beginning of the season, that's not that shocking of a report to hear.
Are we done with the starting 21 and a half?
Yeah, I thought we were done like 11 minutes ago.
No, we're still talking about...
times 2.
We were talking about New York up until recently.
Damn, screw New York.
I think people just want to hear about training, though.
Yeah, well, Tam, you got some news.
Oh, news, okay.
That'll lead into training.
Okay.
I was going to start by, if there's any rumors out there, putting to rest that John Spencer is back from visiting to the UK. I think everyone was thinking maybe he was looking for a job, possibly.
I saw that milk carton. I was worried when I saw that milk carton.
Yeah.
Popped up on social media.
But apparently he was just getting ready or selling his house or prepping to.
Which means he may be here for the long run.
So that's exciting.
Has he been buying a house here?
Oh,
is that the next step?
That was not discussed. It was discussed that he was packing up his house and had to deal with selling it. So he clearly has made the permanent move from Scotland to America. Continue.
As we know, the last weekend was a sad game. So our rankings did drop a little. We are now in second. Wait,
we were already in second. Power rankings? Oh, yeah. Standings or power rankings?
The power rankings.
We were already in second for the last couple of weeks.
Game. It's points per game, which is the one that matters. We were in first at the beginning. We basically been in first all season. We dropped below FC Dallas, who is at like 1.86 points per game, and we're at 1.83, so we're only slightly below them. But technically, if, say, the season were to end in the middle of a season, they wouldn't take your points because teams have played different amounts of games, so they would take the points per game.
I think that's my favorite. And we can talk about it right now because I do, as Michael Azira. He got his 2 yellow cards. He's not going to be playing for the next game, unfortunately, and it's his first game that he's going to be missed since the season has started.
Well, he's played every game since?
Yep.
Way to go, Mike.
Yep. So this is his first one he's going to be missing. But I wanted to start...
Do we know what his accumulation is? because that's 2 yellows.
No.
Because technically he could get another game suspension out of that.
Yeah.
They didn't post the report as far as whether he would be a 2-game or whether he's got one more to go. I mean, granted, I don't know. Yeah. We'll have to look that up.
But I was going to start a new award depending on how the player goes down as the soccer flopper. And so my award goes to Jack Harrison for that game. And it's either soccer flopper or we're going to start calling everyone Jose. Why do I want to say Jose?
Because Jose was the last
Kaiser
guy to flop.
Soze.
Here we go.
I vote for Kaiser Soze.
Yes,
Yeah,
we don't need a
Kaiser
baseball
Soze
player.
Award.
Kaiser Soze Award. It's a
But that's
guy
what
kind of half limping away.
Oh my gosh. Unusual suspects.
So
Gotta
I'm
go
gonna-
see it.
I'm going to need another sound
Did you say
bite.
unusual
Or
suspects?
usual. Oh my God.
And you got a 0 right.
I did. Yeah. And it's Kevin Spacey. You gotta love him. And so the next game that's coming up, their record is 3-7-1. They also have the worst defensive record in the Western Conference.
Oh, Vancouver.
Yes.
All right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I threw you off.
You did a little bit. That's okay.
Okay.
But what do you think of
Save
that?
it for
Because
the
we thought
bedroom
that
guys.
would be the last game that we had a better record with, and we did climb down pretty fast. But do you feel like this will help us?
I've been saying all week, ever since the horrific loss, that we'll know the character of the Rapids team based on this game against Vancouver. How they react and come out on Saturday is going to tell us a lot about how they handle adversity, how the coaching staff handles the players in an embarrassing loss. Like, there's no joke. This was an embarrassing loss. Like 9 embarrassing losses.
It's
in one
transitional.
season.
It's a
Yeah,
transition.
I mean,
it's a sign of the times.
A
It's
little
not as
bit.
bad as the
changing.
Super Bowl we lost.
We're no longer high school league. We're straddling college and world class, and those are growing pains. These kind of losses.
Like Austin's right. At least we can. It's early out where we can start playing well again.
And among the real dedicated Rapids fans, that's pretty much the general consensus. Better it now than
Well-
late September, early September, late August. Like those are the games where you really need to start making sure your team is tight.
Yeah, you should have your team as a team by then. But I'm just glad we were in a position where this could happen and not destroy us.
We weren't Houston.
I like how everyone is so angry out of the one game we've lost in so long. When we lost
Well, like
so
I
many
said-
last
9th
year.
was the last time we
I
lost.
know, but it's just
like I
kind
said
of like
like I said last week. This time last year, we were mad we couldn't win, and now we're mad we
you just
only
keep
barely
expecting
win.
more and more and more, and so when the crash happens,
It's a great
harder.
problem to have. It's
just
awesome in the perspective of last year.
Right.
And how many of our listeners are new to following the Rapids to where last year isn't relevant?
All 3 of them.
It was more
Come
you're
on,
so
I have
excited
at
when they
least
won.
4 fans. I have family members.
This is the C38 cast, so I guess we got to assume that a lot of us have been a part of the club and the culture for a long time, and a lot
Some
of
people
us.
aren't acting like it though.
And that's
Yeah, well,
that's where bandwagon comes into term, man. It's games like this that show
I'm
who
sorry,
are the ones who
let's
can hold
not
on.
be Seattle. Let's not be a team that when our team tanks for one game, getting all butthurt about it. We're mad because we're in second place by 0.03 points per game right now. Come on, people!
I think growing up-
Are we
our
mad
standards
that
went
like
from
we're
last year to make the playoffs to oh my god, we lost first place.
I don't think we're mad. I think, again, just like the Trump supporters, I think it's the loudest asshole theory. I think that the most people are not mad, but the loudest people are what you're focusing on. Now, being a Colorado fan in general prepares you for this kind of shit. I mean,
That's
unless
true.
you're
Every one of
even
our
a
teams
Broncos
do
fan.
this, yeah.
I mean,
And ask the Rockies how their season's going to go.
their
now.
season started horribly, and now they're what? They're doing fine, right?
Yeah,
well, they
but they
just
just
lost
lost
their
their
major.
shortstop.
Yeah, they lost their only good player. But we've lost Jones and Papa for like weeks now. We know what
Jones,
they're going
Papa,
through.
Burling, St. Ledger.
I don't know if you can even count St. Ledger anymore. To be honest,
Yeah.
I just unfortunately that poor guy is just having a really bad year. It was mentioned that somebody put a voodoo doll out on Dylan Powers, but I'm wondering if the same thing happened to St. Ledger. Like, it's unfortunate because to see him out there 2 weeks ago, you wouldn't have thought he was hurt. You really wouldn't have. And he's been milk carton since. So he pushed it too hard,
He's
maybe
in
too
Vail.
soon.
We know that. He's getting that rub down in Vail.
And it's damn, man, because you're right. Having St. Ledger on the back and you add Jones to that, we're an intimidating threat with just having them on your starting 11. When teams see that team sheet and they see St. Ledger and Jones, you already know, oh, man, it's going to be hell to get through that midfield. But lately, teams aren't saying that. Teams are looking at tape and are like, all right, as soon as Kevin Doyle gets the ball,
Swarm.
because he's going to give it up.
Because he's alone up there.
And that's my segue into Mr. Drunken Monk's research he's done over the last few days. Let's hear it, man.
My Doyle breakdown, I guess.
This
Doyle,
week's player focus is on Doyle.
Kevin.
That'd be Kevin Doyle.
Big Doyle.
The
we were
real
going to see
Irishman.
a lot of Connor Doyle, but
As soon as we become what the hell are they called? North Carolina?
so
No, Doyle,
Kevin's,
though,
of
is
course,
in North
from
Carolina. Oh.
the UK, like Spinny, specifically from Ireland.
I don't think Ireland's part of this.
He's 32, so
No,
he's
you're not.
not exactly young for a striker anymore. He's won a few awards over there. Youngest International Player of the Year in 2006, and this is going to show you his age. Senior International Player of the Year 2008 and 2010. Got to thank Brendan over there for bringing up a stat. Apparently, his stats overall at the beginning of the season, all time, is 1 goal for every 4 games he plays.
On average, yep.
On average. So I guess a lot of people were writing Gashi, and I came to his defense on stats. So I thought I'd break down Doyle and show people where, if you're going to blame Gashi, you might want to blame Doyle more. And to be honest, you shouldn't blame either. You should blame the fact we don't have an offensive midfielder. But we'll look past that for now. So Kevin last year played 20 games with 5 goals and 2 assists.
1 goal every 4 games.
Yeah. 34 shots on goal, or 34 shots, 13 on goal. That's a 38% ratio.
Oh.
So this year, 17 games, 4 goals, 2 assists, 42 shots, 10 on goal.
Ooh.
23%. So we'll do a comparison to Gashi, who everybody's been writing like a motherfucker. 15 games, 3 goals, 4 assists, 54 shots, 26 on goal, 48% on goal. Wow. That's just a huge difference, and it's gone down since last game. He was at 51 when I evaluated him before. So let's compare it to our MLS goal-scoring leaders. Villa, 22 games played, 13 goals, 1 assist, 119 shots.
Holy shit.
49 on goal. That's a 41%. So he's technically below Gashi, significantly above Doyle.
Positioning-wise, though.
Yeah, and I will defend him in a minute. Then you've got Giovinco. 20 games played, 12 goals, 9 assists, 131 shots, 43 on goal, 32%.
That's almost Doyle.
Look at the shot differential. If you add up our two, what would be leading strikers, don't even add up to the shots that both those players have taken.
So we're just not making opportunities.
We're just not shooting.
Yeah.
So if you actually added in that differential, Kevin would have 12 goals right now. Damn. If he was shooting as much as Villa or Giovinco.
Wonder if there's a
even
way to
with
get in
his
his
poor
head to make him
percentage,
shoot more.
even with his poor percentage, he'd have the same amount of goals. So, and on top of that, he's a holding forward. I think people don't understand the holding forward position very well.
No, and
His job isn't to score goals. Like, he needs to score some goals, yes, because he needs to be an offensive threat. But the truth is, his job is to distribute
right
to someone that's faster and on your wings. And to be honest, he needs someone sitting behind him, which is why, we've had our argument on whether we should be playing a 4-4-2. But you can technically do that with your central midfielder, but Powers doesn't do that. Powers is not up there. He's not pushing forward. He's not being the guy that Doyle can drop a ball to and then kind of try and distribute a little bit better than he's doing. So our entire offense is stuck in a bad situation. We're playing a very defensive formation. We're missing key players, and the key players we do have, Pablo isn't playing. And I'm specifically speaking of Papa, and I've heard it's because he doesn't defend. He doesn't step back. I don't give a fuck what he does on defense. Okay, I want a guy that's actually distributing the ball and we're putting balls into the net. We spent too much money on this offense for us to not at least be pretending to score goals. So I don't care if he doesn't cross half line to move backwards. If he can distribute and cause us to have somewhat of an offensive mentality that makes teams actually have to kind of sit back instead of pressuring us, put him in the game. You have 10 other players on the field that can play defense. Doyle's going to run back. He definitely still comes back past half line when he needs to. Gashi does. Harrison does. You have 2 defensive midfielders, a solid defensive core, and Howard in the back. You can have one player that isn't a full field player.
Which was almost my argument last week when it came to the 4-4-2. I mean, it really, it depends on who that second striker is. It's not like, we've known this for the whole season since we read the scouting report. Gashi isn't the best defender either. So, maybe that's Pablo's mentality of, if I'm going to have Gashi on the field, I can't have Papa. Fucked up, but maybe it is, maybe it's not. I don't know. My gut tells me, and based on what I saw at training, I would think Papa's going to get the start. I don't think he got the start in New York based on the size of the pitch itself, and maybe he was resting him because we know he babies him. But Papa makes starts at home, and I think that this game he's going to get a start. Whether there's a formation change or not. But I want to see him in place
for Powers, not Harrison.
Yeah,
I don't want to see him in for Harrison. I want to see him in for Powers because I think Harrison, he's not quite at the point that I would consider him a great striker, but he's the speed on our team, and he is a threat. He's not quite to the point where, he's, if you were playing a 4-4-2, he's not a Cummings. He's not quite on that level yet, but he could be. And I think that he's enough of a threat that they have to watch that, which is going to leave Gashi open a little bit more, which is going to leave Doyle open a little bit more. And if you have Papa being your distributor there, he's got 3 targets instead of us just kicking the ball over to Doyle and waiting for slow Powers to slowly walk his way up the field with his lead feet. And it's
more of a
jog.
Just
a better situation. A jog.
But and to kind of go back a little bit on what you briefly said, and I have to agree, we are lacking that offensive midfielder, that attacking mid that really makes a difference. Jermaine Jones did that. That's I think who we're really missing at this point. There was only one game he played in that he didn't score in, as far as when he first really started playing with us, and it was in that role. He does something offensively that Dylan Powers doesn't do as far as playing in the middle. We have guys like Gashi and Papa who play outside, but they suck in and follow the play. Both of them are great at setting up Doyle. And Gashi's assists, you mentioned it earlier, he's got more assists than goals this year, and that's kind of what we almost expected. but we kind of did expect Kevin Doyle to score more. And pointing out the amount of shots that he's had on goal or the lack of compared to Giovinco and David Villa, man, it almost makes me want to have a little chat with him post game and maybe kind of bring something up where, like, your shots on goal are a third of what these top goal scorers are doing. Is that because you're not in position? Is that because of our style of soccer? Or is that because you're not firing the ball at the goal? Like, it's only got to be one of a few things. But I'm curious, and maybe this is something I can kind of do as far as research, or one of us can do between now and the next time we cast. But we continuously go back to the 2010 year where Connor Casey and Omar Cummings really teamed up for a lot of goals. Is it something? How many shots did they have? What was the shots on goal percentage and the ratios? Oh, nice. Let's hear it.
So Cummings in 2010 had 76 shots on goal, 76 shots, 37 on goal. That's a 48%. Casey was 69 with 28 on goal. That's 40%. So we were a defensive team that year,
right?
So we're not, and I prefer that defensive style. I think it's better. I think when you are attacking teams in general, in my opinion, just don't hold up as well, especially when injuries happen. I think defensive teams, when injuries happen, can handle those injuries a lot better than teams that lose players when they're all offense. You lose a key striker, and then that whole thing falls apart. When you lose a key defender, especially when we're playing with two defensive midfielders, you can continue to grind out draws and wins. Watts has been our starting defender for
too long,
half a season now, so that points out to that. So we've never really been a striking team. It's just not the way we've ever been, and I think that with Doyle, the problem is that he's just not getting enough support for his role. With Jones out, Jones missed the first 6 games of the season due to suspension, and then he's been injured twice now. It's something you deal with as having veteran players. They have weaker joints. They take a beating and it takes them longer to recover. It's just a standard of having a veteran player, especially a veteran midfielder. So you expect he's going to miss quite a few games of the season due to injury. But you hope he has the impact, and he has when he's playing. The problem is we don't have Pablo is not playing or has not found a substitute that even compares to what Jones was doing. And I think right now that substitute is Papa. Granted, it might not be the position we wanted him in the first place, but that's the point of, realizing you're a coach and going, well, this is the plate I got dealt. Let's put the best player I can in this position instead of trying to force a specific strategy.
Ideally, yeah, that would be the best case scenario. I mean, without Dylan Cerna, there really isn't depth there as far as attacking mid. And if we are broke, that might be why we didn't do anything in this transfer window. So we got some Twitter questions.
Twitter questions, and I did want to – I was so happy I wanted to keep this 442 thing going because Colin Peterson –
God damn it.
Colin Peterson at the Ace Arbiter on Twitter says, in response to an article posted by the Rapids about what reset, what is the reset we should find and we should look at, he said the reset really should be a rethinking of the offense, moving to a 4-4-2 lineup, and of course getting Jermaine Jr. back into the game. That is nothing we can control.
Obviously not. No.
But there is some support for the 4-4-2. I think people are starting to see that Doyle needs a little more help.
It's definitely something that's discussed between those of us on the sidelines at training. Even Balboa has talked about it with a few of us, and it's been brought up, but I don't see the formation changing just because I know Pablo well enough, and I know that they've really spent a lot of time and money and investing on the 4-2-3-1, And if we had Jermaine back, there's no need to change the formation. It
or if you had
worked.
Cerna right now, you could
Or
put him
Cerna.
in. Like,
yeah.
we're now down to third person, and I think we all agree on this. In our opinion, it's not Powers, and that's what Pablo keeps trying to force is Powers when it really should be Papa. And that's your problem. You need, when you're playing that defensive style, that offensive midfield that you're relying on has to be very offensive, almost a striker mentality.
Yeah, that kind of almost goes back to what Brian mentioned at the very beginning there is, we expected to see more of Papa in that situation. And yeah, I mean, we can talk about it in circles. Not having those guys on the pitch makes a difference. What else have we got?
We have a comment from our friends at the Flakogloss podcast. I don't know if you want to comment, you may, but his comment, the Rapids let Fat Frank score a hat trick on them. That should not happen considering how good our defense is. All right, why did our defense falter? I think is something we've spent a lot of time on today.
Without Michael Azira, it changed the game and the mindset and the mentality and the way that the Rapids probably wanted to play that game. And I don't think they took Fat Frank seriously. I don't. I think they probably saw other guys as more of a threat, or maybe they didn't necessarily focus on one individual.
Let's be honest, one of those goals was a PK. First of all.
That's always an asterisk for me too.
Exactly.
So for me, PKs don't count unless you're the player that gets fouled in the box about to score, which he wasn't.
Right.
He's given basically a free goal. It doesn't matter your goalkeeper at that point. Usually they're going to put it in. And
it was also in the name of history, the first hat trick in New York City FC history. They gave it to him on a silver platter.
He's a solid player. He's a really good player. And without Azira, which I'm going to guess would probably be the person that we would have had on him mainly, because Azira does tend to handle those people at least part of the game, it hurt us. It really does hurt us when Azira is not there, and it makes me afraid for our upcoming game because Azira is a huge part of our defensive lineup. And depending on, of course, I guess we can discuss this once we get to the Vancouver part, but really, how is Pablo going to handle that?
Yeah.
A lack of such a solid player that we've relied on so much in our defense.
That is definitely a question I was going to ask.
You're looking at a team that got a goal scored on them, then went a man down, got another goal scored on them pretty quickly after that, and then you have to force yourself forward with 10 men, which means you're letting them just score against a team that's used to shootouts. Like, that's their style of play. We played right in to the style of play that they play. We were forced to try and push forward and try and go into a shootout, and we will lose a shootout every single time. We don't have the strikers for it.
And you just said, we have Tim Howard. But it was a bad game. We totally just fell apart. And there really isn't a whole lot of excuses other than that.
Well, Howard had a bad game. He definitely did, in my opinion. I don't know if the last two games have just been fatigue. We don't really have any defensive subs right now because we're already running Watts in our defense. We're missing Bobby, we're missing St. Ledger, that kind of stuff. So we're leaving a lot of pressure onto some players for a long period of time, and so I'm gonna tack a lot of this up to fatigue. You're just tiring players out. They're all playing 90 minutes. You're not really getting the opportunity to sub people out, and Howard's coming in mid-season trying to, meld with this team, and that's gonna take a little bit of time. But he's made some really huge saves over the last weeks, but he did not really show up for this game for me. But it's really hard. Yeah, the entire team didn't show up, and that mentality is infectious. It really is. It's terrible. It's the reason that we did so terrible last year. We didn't have that terrible of a team last year. But once you start getting that mentality where teams are beating you up, and in this game, just one team is just beating you up, gets in your head. It doesn't matter what type of player you are. When you're down a man down 2 goals, it's going to get in your head. So the big question is, how do we bounce back?
Lastly, Juanathon 15, our good friend Juan Fernandez wants to hear about a Luton Shelton signing. What's up with that?
All right, so here's the scoop on that. He is no longer an interest of the Rapids. They went ahead and let him go. They were really, really, really interested, and this is no joke. They had him here last year, same time. This year, they brought him back. They made an investment, a medical investment on him to see if they could help him get healthy and ready to play, because they really felt like he would fit the mold. They felt like he would be that outside winger, that outside midfielder who has the speed, who has maturity and experience. Someone they really felt like he could be a key player if he could be healthy. He couldn't. He couldn't get acclimated to the altitude. He couldn't stay healthy. And at some point, they felt like they had to kind of cut their losses. And unfortunately for Luton Shelton, he won't be playing here. So, yeah, it's not going to happen.
All right, are we on to Vancouver?
Yeah, we can go ahead and look forward now.
All right. Know thy enemy.
Yeah.
All right, this is not the first time we've played Vancouver. We do know this enemy. We just haven't yet seen them dry, meaning that we played there at their home. All right, we know they sit 6th in the West. They sit 10th overall, even behind four Eastern teams with a measly 30 points for 23 games, which is 2 more than the mighty Rapids have played. They are 8, 9, and 6, but away they're 3, 7, and 1, which means they even suck at drawing on the road. The Rapids need to add a 10th to that horrible losses list, and this is the team to do it to. The Whitecaps, which is just an inferior type of a Rapid, are the first to have scored on Howard. The Whitecaps, which sounds like a chronic skin condition, were the second team to score on Howard. The Whitecaps, which sounds like a shitty sugarless candy for diabetic children, need to be decimated now while they're tired and before they can take full advantage of their new acquisition. That's right, children. Canada just doubled its population of black people by signing Giles Barnes away from Houston, and he is expected to be available for selection this Saturday.
Oh, man, that was awesome. So they played in Trinidad and Tobago last night. So
Oh, yeah. Oh, did I not mention that they're coming back from a 4-game away stretch, and we're the end, and they should be good and tired.
I mean, talk about tired. He played and took with him, or Carl Robinson did, most of the B squad. And this was something that Austin and I were chatting about in the pre-show prep, is it would be dumb to go back to Vancouver. Now, granted, you didn't take a handful of your starters and whatnot, but does that mean the Rapids are going to end up facing a B team, or do some of those guys meet up in Colorado? It kind of part of my 3 points. Point number 2 will kind of lead into this, but you're right. They're on a long road streak, and they just played in another country last night. Like it's not like a lot of them are fresh. We are, and that should play to a little bit of an advantage.
Well, and looking at from a Whitecaps perspective, which it really is a terrible name. It just sounds terrible.
Candy for diabetics.
If they're fighting for a playoff spot right now, they're the last playoff spot in the West.
I can't remember. They're the shittiest or the second shittiest Cascadia right now. I can't remember. I think they're second shittiest Cascadia right now.
But I'm looking at it and I'm going, you don't want to sacrifice points at this point for them. It's different for us right now. We're in a rough stretch. We're at home, so we need to go for the win. But if we were away, I'd say maybe rest a couple players. Because we have enough points in the standings where we'd be okay. With them, they lose these points. It's going to start becoming harder to fight for that last playoff spot, which it seems like they're going to end up doing at the end of the season. They also have the second worst defense in the league. So since we could only score 1 goal against the worst defense in the league,
on a set piece,
on a set.
That was a nice goal.
Oh, it was.
So this is our opportunity to redeem ourselves. I put back the factor that we didn't score a lot of goals against them. We went down a man early. So that really hurt us in that game. So this game is an opportunity at home to go up against a terrible defense and show that we can score more than one goal.
All right. Well, shall we do 3 points?
Sure. Do you want to give Brian his say first?
We'll give Brian some love. Here we go.
Points for Vancouver. So my 3 points looking ahead this weekend. The first one is, get that game behind you, clear your head, get back to the attacking, forceful play that we've seen from the Rapids. I want to see more attack. Vancouver, as we saw a few weeks ago, last time we played up there, their defense is not good, if anything. So I think these guys can be had. Colorado just needs to really get on the front foot, stay on the front foot, pin these guys into their half for as much of the game as possible. And I think good things are going to happen. But that's going to require more of a, I guess, not necessarily an effort, but more of a mindset and an ability to get in position to help Doyle from guys like Marlin, Dylan, Gashi, even Papa when he's in there. So give the Rapids more of, more weapons, more than looking for one guy to do all the work and do it himself. So I think that's my big one. The second one, I think, is just communication, especially in the back. There's going to be some, with Michael Azira out, I wouldn't be surprised to see Watsy slide up into that second D mid next to Sam. That's going to hopefully put Burling back into that center back position. So it'll be nice to see him back because we know he's been ready for a couple weeks. So again, some new faces together that haven't played together in a while. So I think communication between those four and the two in front with Sam and Jared is going to be huge. Get on the same page. Get, so where the other guys are going to be and help. And I think that'll go a long way to allowing the outside backs to move up into attack like we've been able to see when things have gone well. And the third one is kind of like I said earlier on, just get everything out of your head from last week. It's over. It's done. I look for guys like Howard and Bobby and Sam and Kevin, the veterans who've been through the ups and downs. And really, you look, there's the spine of our team right there. But look for them to really kind of settle people down, get people to relax, play the game the way they know they can play. And, again, we've seen how they can put pressure on Vancouver. Now it's just going to be a matter of finishing. And no more draws at home. These are home games. These need to start being 3 points. We've seen enough draws. It's getting down towards the second half, the third third of the season. Points at home are going to be critical. So no more wasting opportunities like that. So get on them early, attack them, get ahead, stay ahead. Things will be good. So there you go. I'll leave you with that. Enjoy the match. Talk to you soon.
So, as Brian alluded, he kind of expected a little bit of a change in the defense due to the lack of Michael Azira, and that kind of leads me into my 3 points. Number one, obviously, it's a home game, so I got to start off by saying protect the deck. We're still undefeated at home, and we do need to return to defensive form, and maybe being without Bobby Burling might have been part of that. And, assuming Pablo keeps the formation, Brian's right. Maybe they slide Watts up into that defensive midfield role. Bobby is definitely ready to go. I've watched him now a handful of times at training. There's nothing holding him back except for Pablo picking him on the team sheet. There really isn't. So this could be one of those games, or the game, where we see the return of Bobby Burling, especially at home. Being a Colorado boy, there might be that little aspect of it. I originally thought that maybe that would be a good time to slide Dylan Powers back and start Papa. So, there are some things and different scenarios that Pablo can do as far as plugging and playing with who we have available to make it happen. Point 2 is run them into the ground. Like we mentioned earlier, they just played in Trinidad and Tobago. They're on a 4-game away streak. They haven't been home. They've been traveling a lot. There's a lot of airtime. If they come here early, they're going to get some training, but it's not enough to get them acclimated to the altitude. In fact, it might even hinder them, whether they know it or not. So, this could be really a good thing. Vancouver is 1-5 out of the last 6 games played here at Dick. So we really kind of own them when they are here. We need to continue that and do so. And then point 3 for me, score often and early. I think, again, another first half goal is critical. And to be able to score 2 goals is almost more critical than scoring in the first half. If we can get multiple goals on the board, that not only shows that this team can rebound from an embarrassing loss, but they can score, because that's really what we've been talking about now for the last few weeks. Not just the last 2 games, but probably the last 4 to 6 games. There hasn't been much of an offense. Time for it to show. We just mentioned it earlier. They're the second worst defense in the league. They're the worst defense in the Western Conference. Like, we got to expose that. If we can't expose that, then I almost hold the coaching staff responsible, because this is something that they need to be able to figure out and show this team how to score against teams who can't defend. We can clearly defend. Now we need to score on teams who can't. That's what we need to do moving forward. There's my 3 points. Your turn, Monk.
I'm up? All right. So, for me, my first point is bounce back. We got our asses kicked. It's going to happen. It shows the mentality of the team to bounce back. The last 2 seasons, we wouldn't know if we would cave. It would lead to a streak of just terribleness. And this season's different. So I want to see us prove to the fan base that it's different, and we need to bounce back. We need to show that the one loss isn't going to get into our heads, and we can come out and play our soccer. We need to prove we can score goals. Once again, I put away last game to being a man down. That makes it difficult for us to score goals. So you're going up against the second worst defense in the league. We need to score multiple goals. We need to go at them. We need to come out the same way that New York came out against us. They got their asses kicked, and then they came at us and scored 5 goals. So we need to prove that we can do that. We need to bounce back like they did.
Step your game up.
And my third point is our fan base. We're at home. We need to show that we're supporting this team. Even after a horrible loss like that, which was just absolutely terrible play, step up. Just like them, we need to bounce back. We need to be there. We need to show support for this team.
12th man.
And it might be
that's very
a little
important.
less than the hot as the sun on Saturday.
So, to lead into our awesome music that I chose for today, Don't Stop Believin'.
That is an Austin pick. I was going to disclaimer that too.
Hashtag Don't Stop Believin', people.
Yeah.
If you want your voice on The Voice, please hashtag VOC38 on Twitter or email the voice of C38 at gmail.com.
Other than that, we expect to see you guys out at the tailgate, and we'll be rocking it. So looking forward to it.
He doesn't know that we're not.
We're ready yet? Howard.
Not even close.
This is terrible.
You picked it.
Dude, I told you, no more Steve Barry sightings.
Yeah, you're a little bitch. Oh, also, Bedoya's dead to me.
Just a small town girl.
We did not.
We discussed it, I thought.
Yeah.
Oh,
She
my
took
fault.
the midnight train.
See you guys this week.
Yes, city boy. right. He took the midnight train going anywhere. A singer in a smoking room, smell of wine and cheap perfume. For a small vacation